What up, YouTube? I just came back from getting some food. We got McDonald's and we got some Jacobs. It's my day off, so we're gonna be a bit of a big bag. I just got some macaroni and yams and a banana pudding from Jacobs. Yeah. I'm gonna watch some YouTube. And from McDonald's, I got the two snack wrap. I got a caramel frappuccino, and I'll treat it myself because I was supposed to be going on a date, but I'm not that desperate to be that accepting of some bullshit. And I got snack wrap and some chicken nuggets. Two snack wraps, chicken nuggets. You should be giving me love. Honey mustard first. And we gonna crush that down. I'll show you guys the mac and cheese and the yams. I put them in the same thing together. This is the mac and cheese. This is the yams. All in one. Snack wraps. Yeah. You got center caramel. Okay. This is the straw. Well, we're gonna use the straw right now. I'm thirsty. All this talking, I'm gonna sip. I wanna sip.
Speaking of that, right, I want to backtrack to your comments about stage time. I heard that she was up for a big role in a big TV movie that you didn't get the role because of the extension. The Ruby Bridges story.
Well, basically what happened was the producers told the director, whose name was Fusan Palti, that I was so dark.
Yeah, I got
I was scared.
protein and the sides. Like, it's not like I got.
And that's what happened on that.
Hold on. Just noticed.
And basically that's what happened.
Where my fries?
Who's African and French, and a white producer whose name I can't remember.
They didn't even put my fries in here.
You are our first choice if you don't get this role.
What they doing? I'm putting my fries in here, like, of all things. Like, I mean, I didn't need the fries, but why would they forget my fries? Like, that comes with the meal. Supposed to. Like, two snack wraps is never gonna be enough for a meal. Yeah. And yeah, this was $11. The lady was in here complaining about it too.
White agent from CAA that sent Wesley into a role. This is documented. And they called him and said, don't think
I should have peeped that.
than Denzel. Racism permeates, and it's not the same anymore because we see, really dark-skinned actresses and dark-skinned actors. But you gotta understand, if Obama was my complexion, he wouldn't have been president. You know what I'm saying? I still get followed around.
They only had that sauce in that first bite. With no sauce. No, I love the honey mustard.
And I stood up and I said, would you keep my thinking I was a white boy? Because there's all kinds of different people in the world that like, what is this doing flying first class with us up here? You know, I make more money than all these. We always talk about how crazy the world is. We all know it still exists. We know that. I think what he's saying is what I said in the beginning of the video is that if you look at his track record, his acting history, he should have had bigger roles than he had. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we don't see. That's why I like watching interviews like this, Terrell and Delco and Gap, especially when they talk about, like, this is, my agent tried everything, but this is what they came back and said. All in first class. So you gotta understand, still people like that in the world, people like that in this business. I did a TV series, which I am not going to say, but some of the teachers were Klan members. This is real. It's real. I don't take any from anybody that's racist, sexist, or anything. Period. And I can tell you a billion stories and I'm never going to take it. Period. I encountered some racism on New York Undercover. And the sound man, he was trying to put the mic in my hair. I had a scarf. I was playing this little thug guy. And I had my head, a head wrap, like Tupac used to wear. And I told the sound guy, I said, sir, I don't want to run the wire up in my hair because I'm going to be rolling on the ground. Maybe I was being a little overprotective, but I could choke. Freak accidents happen in this business all the time. There was a girl, let me tell you this story, on Vampire in Brooklyn. Black stunt lady.
Maybe I could show.
Her first jump was successful.
Why are you trying to put it in my hip?
The second jump, somebody adjusted the mat. Go look this story
Simply
up.
just don't
She
want it in my
jumped,
hair.
hit the mat, and bounced into the wall and died instantly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So as I was talking to the sound man, now on a lot of the African American shows back in the day, all the writers, producers were white. You may have one or two black folks there. I don't deal with racism very well because I grew up in Washington D.C. and I grew up with good white folks and a million black people.
Good white.
So it's one of my triggers. So I told the sound guy, I said, I don't want to put the wire in my hair. So he turned to me and looked me in my eye. He said, I tell you what then, why don't you do your sound in post? You know what that means?
No, I don't.
What that means is, why don't you do the show while you're here this week, and then you let them fly you back in and then put your sound in. I said, no problem. So I called the first AD, and I said, I think your sound man is a racist. He said, well, what happened to the I said, well, I was telling him I wanted to put the mic either down on my leg or behind my back and put the wire up in my shirt somewhere. And he told me to do mine in post. So he said, don't worry, I'll talk to him. So I assumed that he talked to him. I got back after lunch. I said, sir, like I said before, I don't want to put the wire in my hair. And then he said, what did I tell you? He might have said, boy. He said, boy, what did I tell you before? And I stepped back and I said, let me tell you something, bro. I will knock the out of you on your steps. And any one of you white boys got a problem with me, I'll fight every one of you. Period.
Period.
And I went to my trip and I called my manager.
This is a fair use.
She said, what's the problem? And I said, what's the problem? She said,
Don't
well,
say.
you're in New York. I said, I don't give a where I am.
So see that? That's what he said. You get certain roles.
Call 1-800-FREE. I did some shopping on Lyft. These basic sexual bags. I love the mix of sweet and sporty that these have. I love dressing with a lot of texture.
Imagine your favorite YouTuber smiling on camera, then finding out they're behind bars for murder. They were going to be checking out creators from else, but no, just not imaginable. YouTubers that became murderers. Kind of crazy how people could just post content on the internet. Little do we know, they got an insane track record of events to the point where they have to now behind bars. And then their videos are still on the website. It's crazy.
Suzanne Eaton was a 59-year-old American scientist who was working as a professor of molecular biology in Dresden, Germany. A big part of her job at this institute was to travel around the world and hold conferences on the latest developments in her field. In July of 2019, she traveled to the scenic Greek island of Crete for one of these conferences, not knowing that this was going to be her last, and that the person responsible for her end would be caught because of his videos on YouTube. The incident happened on July 2nd. After a conference, Suzanne spent time with her peers and played the public piano in the
Alright,
venue's lobby.
we're getting into the mac and cheese and the yams. This was a lot to get into the bowl or whatever, so I didn't get as much yams as mac and cheese, but we really wanted the mac and cheese. We just want to taste it again.
Over 24 hours passed without anyone hearing from her. So on July 3rd, her colleagues
I just farted.
hoping she was simply sick or something.
Look at that.
However, when officers arrived at her hotel room, no one answered.
I was at McDonald's, I was
They
farting
acquired a
too.
spare key from the hotel management and went inside, only to find the room completely empty and undisturbed. All of Suzanne's belongings were also still in the room. The only things missing were her running shoes and a set of exercise clothes. Those who knew her immediately understood what this meant. He's
Yeah, I'm not
She
gonna
was
lie.
missing?
Some of the saddest stuff when it comes to cases like this is, again, people who you thought it would never be their last day, you never know if you're gonna see them again, and it could be some of the sweetest people you know. It's
Sweetest.
just crazy how just timing of life works and just, oh, I can only imagine, dude. I can
That's why you gotta live your life
those
now.
who knew her
See?
immediately understood what this meant. You see, in addition to her academic prowess
got
and
me
general
this.
expertise, Suzanne was also an
Man,
athlete at heart.
you know, live
She was
my
a
life
double
now.
black belt in Taekwondo, and despite her age, loved going on a run every day. Knowing this helped
so
investigators
sweet.
narrow down what might have happened to her. Put simply, she likely went on a run soon after returning to her hotel on July 2nd, and something went wrong after that. She wasn't super familiar with the area, and to make matters worse, the weather was uncomfortably hot that afternoon.
See, I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of people like to solo travel and just kind of explore the world on their own timing, which is great, fantastic. But just considering the world we live in, period, it is so unfortunate to know that as a prerequisite, we quite literally have to have the mindset of just double checking, quadruple checking our surroundings and where we're at, and what possible help could be nearby just in case. Like, again, when you were just living life and you don't expect issues like this to happen, you're never thinking on that wavelength. You're never thinking to constantly be like anxious or to constantly be in a state of paranoia.
Yes, you are.
Or to check your back. Or to make
Why
sure
do people
things are
say
in
that?
order.
Like,
People
oh, you
around
don't
you are
really
saying,
think
you know,
so.
it's just like you just live.
Yes, you do.
So again, for this to have happened, it's just crazy to know you don't know these things.
A black man.
Like, dude, if she was just working out and this is
Watching
something she
your back.
actively did, it was probably such a beautiful thing for her. She probably just thought, okay, I'll just go around town and jog. Like, this is crazy.
There was a strong possibility she collapsed from the heat or something else along those lines.
Yeah.
After putting this together, the Crete police immediately dispatched a search and rescue team in the area surrounding her hotel and around popular running trails. Her family even traveled to Crete and put a €50,000 reward for anyone who could help find Suzanne. Unfortunately, Suzanne was nowhere to be found. That is until 5 days later, on July 8th, when two young men were exploring one of the abandoned World War II Nazi bunkers scattered across Crete. Around 200 meters in, one of them noticed a piece of burlap covering something on the ground. They picked it up from one end to see what was underneath. And what they found was the aftermath of one of the most horrific crimes in Crete's recent history. The burlap was covering the bloody remains of Suzanne E. A later autopsy report discovered that Suzanne had several broken ribs, multiple fractures throughout her body, a missing ear, and much
Who
more.
did Suzanne like
Whatever
that?
happened to her certainly was not an accident. The investigators began searching for clues, and fortunately it didn't take long for them to make their first major breakthrough. A set of car tire tracks leading up to the entrance of the bunker. Analyzing these tracks allowed investigators to find the car responsible for transporting Suzanne's remains to that bunker. They belonged to 27-year-old Yanis Paraskakis, a local sheep farmer. But when questioned, Yanis feigned ignorance and claimed that him driving through that area on that day was nothing more than a coincidence. He went as far as to say that he didn't even know about the existence of that bunker, a lie that would eventually lead to his arrest.
Oh, a lie. That's what I'm not gonna lie. Thank goodness that we have detectives and forensic scientists and people who quite literally could just take anything in their surroundings and figure stuff out. Just be putting clues together. You gotta have a certain level of just like intuitiveness and like that's crazy, bro. Shouts out to them for just even knowing how to correctly do stuff like this. Like, bro, how would you have not known, or how would you know if that dude was lying or not? He could, yeah, that easily could have been a coincidence, but at the same time, that easily could have been something way deeper than that. Like,
You see, Yanis had a dream to become a successful YouTuber. He started a channel with his own name in 2012 and began posting videos. However, if you go to his channel today, all you'll find are 3 videos of him performing an ancient Chinese martial art and meditation technique called Qigong.
the Avatar?
The Avatar?
Yanis deleted every other video on his channel, and once authorities recovered some of these deleted videos, it became clear why. You see, most of these deleted videos involved Yanis exploring abandoned World War II bunkers, including the one where Suzanne's remains were discovered. This contradiction gave the authorities the go-ahead to formally arrest him on July 15. It also allowed them to investigate him further, and the evidence they discovered was overwhelming. As it turned out, the land where this bunker was located was owned by Yanis' family. Investigators also found traces of Suzanne's blood in his car's trunk. When confronted with this evidence, Yanis cracked and told the whole story. According to him, he saw Suzanne running down the road and something came over him. He hit her with his car twice before putting her in his car, driving to the bunker, and ending her life there.
Are you
He
dead
later
ass?
changed his story to where he was compelled to commit this crime by a demon. Unfortunately for him, the jury didn't buy this one bit and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 20.
Brother, I'm not gonna lie. Listen, this is a super short rant. I don't know if anyone has seen the movie Nefarious. I don't know what platform it's on in terms of streaming. That movie had someone play the role of like a guy who was arrested, who was pretty much possessed by a demon, I guess. And the whole synopsis of the whole video is like the interrogator or the investigator trying to figure out if like he actually is possessed and if it could be proven in court for him to avoid the death penalty. I'm not gonna lie. That movie was kind of crazy in terms of putting some things into perspective. But when it comes to IRL events, I'm not talking about a movie, because I'm talking real life. Just simply saying that a lot of people aren't going to buy it, bro. Not at all. What do you mean you were just driving, minding your own business, and then something came over you? Hello? Like, what do y'all be doing? What do y'all be tinkering with? You don't know sane, moral standing individual will just exist, and then boom, blink of an eye be possessed by something to go ahead and take out a murder. Like, make it make sense, bro. That is disgusting that some people write that off as an excuse. Like, I kid you not. The only reason I made the comparison to the movie Nefarious was because of the fact that, like, the guy who was, again, facing the death penalty was indeed possessed by a demon.
I'm actually getting
the ins and outs of him, like, kind of letting the guy who he was possessed, or letting the guy who he was possessing kind of come to the forefront and just witness the fact that, like, he couldn't control the circumstances. Again, real life, a movie. Even if you were to say that, people aren't buying it. Because again, if you're just chilling, you're just not going to be possessed like that. I don't think that's how that works in the slightest. So again, oh my gosh, man.
Now, this should have been the end of Giannis' story, but from what I've seen, there's more to his actions than just this one crime he was convicted of. The thing is, Giannis presented his final act as a crime of opportunity, something he did completely out of nowhere. However, there's evidence to suggest that Giannis might be a full-blown serial killer. For instance, he was apparently detained by the police twice before, once for arson and once for animal cruelty, both of which are well-known early behaviors of serial killers. After his arrest, several other women also came forward, testifying that he had tried to run them over with his car as well in the past.
Lock his ass up. No, bro. No, we don't want to. No, don't nobody want to be around that. Put him in a box. I'm so serious. I have heard if you are just sick to where you see animals, mammals, and just creatures that have no conscience, they have no full recollection of behaviors that humans exhibit.
Recollection.
Why are you hurting animals? What is even prompting you in your brain to look at a creature that don't be bothering nothing? They just live in their lives, and then you hurt it. It's like we could really go there, bro. This is gross. This is really gross to me.
So, Suzanne was more than likely not his first victim. However, the most solid evidence against Giannis is in one of the deleted videos he uploaded to YouTube. In it, we can see him showing some very human-looking bones scattered throughout the same bunker Suzanne was discovered in. These bones were never discovered by the authorities, suggesting they might have been removed by Giannis to hide evidence.
Mind you, they put this shit on YouTube. Like, this website is so vast. I do not think people truly understand the depth and the history of YouTube, the website. Although this is my full-time job, there are hundreds and millions, possibly billions of just intricate pieces of video clips and content that people constantly upload to the website. So who's to say that in the midst of all of those videos, all of those clips, all of the people trying to become the next up-and-coming content creator, that people aren't putting the most demented, deplorable content on this website? And it's just getting... Obviously, a lot of people do have instances, and I'm sure this video will show it, to where this is like way back in the past, just old YouTube channels, just old history of people attempting to want to post publicly on these platforms. And then they get caught up for stuff like this. But just in general, to still have that be a thing, to where outside of the normal YouTubers in which you use, there are some people who get on here and tweet. There are some people who get on here and just do the most heinous things. And in their minds, I don't know if they're just doing it for their own gratification, to try and appease people. They will go out of their way and just post disgusting material on this website. Yes, on YouTube.com. I just think that's the most psychotic thing ever. That is really crazy.
And what makes this truly disturbing is what his friend says at one point in the same video. This roughly translates into, if this where you left that old guy, insinuating that Giannis had disposed of one of his previous victims in the same bunker before. And if that is the case, one can only wonder how many other people Giannis has killed over the years.
Of course, Susan. Yeah, stuff like this it hurts the worst because, again, this can happen to anybody. To be so full of life and to already just be someone who just is minding their business constantly. And then to have the most unfortunate circumstances take place like this, I can't. I just can't, bro. It makes me upset every single time, bro.
Simply Manic 6075 was a YouTube channel owned and operated by 24-year-old Samantha Wolford. She lived in the small community of Monticello, Texas, with her husband Ernest Lee Ibarra, aka Ernie, and their three children. She usually made videos about her day-to-day life and other random topics. Her story began in 2008 when she was at the lowest point of her life. She recently became the single mother of a pair of twins and had no love interest in her life. That's when she met Ernie at a local tattoo shop, and the two hit it off right from the get-go, eventually getting in a relationship and starting a family together. In one of her videos, Samantha described the day she met Ernie as the happiest day of her life. Together, they were blessed with 3 more children, including